Not live, very much pre-recorded from a small studio apartment in the backyard of an undisclosed landlord's house in Austin, Texas. This is the Poetry Pals Radio Hour. I am Spencer Mirabal. I'm going to be reading some poetry to you. Some of mine, yes, but mostly my friends who I miss, my friends who continuously inspire me with their writing. This hour will be in celebration of them and their work, acting as a meditative exercise to read their poetry and prose aloud, to hear the creative voice of another writer in my mouth, deepening my own voice and empathy. You are also going to be seeing some images on the screen while I read some poetry to you. You can choose to watch or close your eyes and just listen, whatever makes the vibes right for you. These pairing film sequences also acted as a challenge for me, an opportunity to betterment my skills in film composition and editing, and maybe put to rest my half-baked, overly dramatic, recently coined description of myself as a prematurely retired filmmaker. The work will speak for itself. I will not dwell on telling you what to expect or how to feel because, honestly, I still do not know what to expect or how to feel about poems or films or anything that I recorded for this, or what to expect or how to feel about the future. The only sentiment I have to get us started is community. Again, welcome to the Poetry Pals Radio Hour. Cheers and hello, sweet friends. Calibration by August Smith. Author's note: because poetry is not only a communicative medium, but also a shared experiential, virtualized space that complicitly transcends traditional modes of time and location, the poet and the reader must calibrate themselves to one another's imaginative spheres before proceeding, like two cellos tuning to the same note before a performance, or like in a heist movie where the protagonists synchronize their watches before they drive a small European car into the side of a bank. For this purpose, the following serves as a calibration exercise between poet and reader. Please follow the instructions in each step to ensure a stable, synchronistic calibration. Thank you, and enjoy the book. Please, take a deep breath. Imagine a version of me standing in front of you, holding up my fist. Focus your gaze on my fist. Follow the fist with your eyes. Do not look away. Do not look at me. Nothing exists besides my fist. Consider the fist. Accept the fist as the subject of your consideration. Consider the fist considering you. Now watch as I slowly rotate my fist. Think about how it feels for me to be rotating my fist. Think about the last time you thought about a fist. Now focus on my knuckles. Consider their symbolic content as weapons, as instruments. Consider their linguistic content. Knuckle rhyming with buckle, which rhymes with chuckle, which rhymes with fuckle. Do not let the made-up word fuckle throw you off. Let it exist alongside the other real words. Let them all hang out and be chill. Wonder at the history of the word knuckle, how it comes from a Proto-Germanic and Middle Dutch from the word little bone, how it's linked to the word knot and knob. In the periphery of your mind, let the phrase knuckle duster float around, with knuckle down and knuck of your buck. Ask yourself, what's the opposite of a knuckle? Allow these thoughts to flow around inside your head like liquids of various densities. Let them combine and intertwine and absorb one another. Bend them around any obstacle like logic or self-consciousness. Don't feel stupid, but don't feel smart either. The calibration is 40% complete. Return your focus to the fist. The fist will now transform. Stay focused on it. Picture the fist transforming into the head of an alligator. Picture it in disgusting, excruciating detail. How incredible. The alligator, she looks calm, rested, confident. She has witnessed great bloodshed, but has experienced great love. She looks ready to speak. You must imagine the alligator's voice as the voice of your birth mother's. If you're unable to do that, substitute in any other matronly voice from your life or media. The alligator says, knuckle. You didn't imagine it sufficiently, I can tell. Let's try again. In the voice of your mother, the alligator says, knuckle, 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 knuckle. The alligator is transforming again. Stick with it. We're nearly calibrated. Now it's a sapphire, glimmering in the air, balanced on the end of my wrist. The sapphire's hatching like an egg. Picture that. Picture the little pieces falling off. The slight tapping sound the pieces make as they hit the ground. Out of the sapphire egg emerges what? An eyeball. Of course. It's looking all over. This way and that, nervously, it's looking down at my shoes. Now, look down at my shoes. If you can't see them, imagine my shoes. I will tell you they are black and comfortable. They are hatching like a pair of eggs. Do not picture anything emerging from the shoes. Do not picture anything emerging from the shoes. Let them crumble. Look back at the eyeball. Notice how it's become a helicopter. There's a tiny man in the helicopter. Say hello to him. Think about his life. Why is he so sad? Is the helicopter making him sad? We don't know. Could only infer the connections between these objects, infinite in their possibility. The helicopter floats like a dragonfly over a lake of fire. You can feel the warmth. We're very nearly calibrated. A rope ladder rolls down from the helicopter like a vine. The man emerges and slides down. He is small, wearing nice chinos, a little top hat. He's cute. He drops. Let him drop into the flames. Okay? We have all murdered a man and are bound by his bloodshed, and the calibration is nearly complete. Back to the helicopter, slowly morphing, back into the closed fist. No, into a butterfly. It flutters away into a golden sky. Goodbye, butterfly. Wow. Calibration complete. Let's check those numbers. Emotional resonance factor is at 100%. Symbolic paradigm reactors at 100%, linguistic centers loosened, logic reaction mechanisms temporarily disabled, and semantic pliability is at maximum level. Cool. Perfect calibration. All we had to do is kill that guy. Breakfast Records by Spencer Mirabal. You measure out 44 grams of your favorite coffee bean. Hints of jasmine, caramel, tangerine, not quite at the point in your life to actually taste those flavors. Grind them way too early in the morning in a second-hand grinder in a fourth-hand house. Pick a mug from a cabinet of mismatched memories. Your sink chock full of others' anxieties that are becoming yours. So you tilt the kettle at a wonky angle, fill it with the Sleepy City's water, boil 205 degrees, pour through paper into a glass Chemex, swirl, rinse in the light of a window, an all too brief rainbow. The backyard a jungle, the porch a junkyard, the counter a mess of wet pumpkin patch bark from ground spilled from since childhood hand tremors. 700 grams, 4 minutes. You're never certain if today is the day. It's all exact, but that doesn't matter. You are at the church of yourself now. Mistake-ridden meditation, quiet chemistry. Wait for the brew to decide its identity. Blink in slow motion. Feel time's curve. Put your favorite breakfast record on. Shuffle your feet in a dance no one will ever see but your kitchen and the cul-de-sac cat that sleeps on the worn beer pong table abandoned in the yard. When it's ready, pour the coffee into your memory mug. Breathe it in to the bottom of your lungs. Watch the fog on your glasses. Inhale. Exhale. Drink your worth in. You are at the church of yourself. You are allowed to be at the church of yourself. Fuck yeah. Plea to the Long-Bearded Man at the Judgment Gate by Maddy Dessanti. I have an hour and 17 minutes left on the parking meter outside. Spool bullshit until it tangles into a gossamer of nursery rhymes that make as much sense as wearing a backwards baseball cap did. Make constellations out of you. Bathe you in water that is holy because I called it holy. Pluck all the fruits from the tree of ignorance. Leave strands of my DNA in the ether. But first, forgive me for attempting alchemy. What do I know about chewing straw into gold, or into a glimpse out of God's blind eye? Almost making you into something as romantic as a twinkling belt hung loose off the sooty waist of a hunter. Wanting to make you pure by bathing you in a cesspool of my own impurities. Original sin, or asking the question at 12:29 a.m. Wanting to do nothing and everything at the same time. Goddamn, it is so good. She needs to submit this to a journal or magazine because this poem slaps. Slaps so hard. This is really good. Ways to Kick Off a New Year by Sam Trevino. Fires. Broken glass. In Ecuador, empty suitcases are walked around the block. In Spain, they're eating grapes at midnight. They're eating black-eyed peas in the south because who doesn't want some more soul in their food? An old farmer in Romania is whispering to his animals, hoping they will talk back. In Venice, St. Mark's Square is filled with 100 kisses. A tree is planted under frozen water in Siberia. In Brasstown, North Carolina, they are torturing some poor opossum, and I'm not sure what that has to do with anything. Some folks just join a gym and go once, while others don't even get that far. Jen is planning to travel. Sol is talking about Europe. Some go to a confessional or jump in the Atlantic to get washed clean in the sunrise. Whisper your resolutions down a dark alley and keep on walking. Pour your regrets into your finest silver serving tray and leave it soaking in the moonlight. Stand over it at midnight and recite the secret incantation of your choosing. Mutter anything for long enough in Latin, and it's bound to sound mystic. It's like telling your darkest secrets to a piñata right before you smash its head in. Oh man, I miss Sam. I miss my friend. I miss all my friends. Oh shit, I just spilled water on myself. Muted by Joe Brundidge. Say it's because you're busy. You'll lose track of time, miss the bus, or you're on the bus, and you'll miss your stop, or you're at your work, and bills take precedence. The timing isn't right. You don't have the right pen. There are books to be read. Your chakras aren't aligned. The environment isn't right. You got allergies. Congested, crowded in more ways than one. Maybe it's too much on your mind. It's not something grown-ups do, and besides, it's already too late in the evening. You have to get up, early to work, early to sleep, though you've never said it before. Maybe you still feel guilty having lost so much time. The last stretch you gave into it, you just lie. Tell everyone you've lost it, knowing full well it's right there breathing on the back of your neck. Maybe you're still in that room. You still remember holding her hand, saying hello as her eyes said goodbye. Maybe it's all too much. Life like a room full of people walk out the door at once and you refuse to acknowledge the insurrection inside. Telling folks you're fine. They can see the fissures on your face. You become preoccupied with running and you stopped caring about where you were heading. Or maybe, just maybe, you finally got hit by so much you're unincorporated now. Pieces of you spread over the whole of your existence, pieces of you. But the show must go on, especially when you're not on stage. Life is not a stage. It's not a room full of people staring at you. You prefer claustrophobia to your fear of heights. Maybe you're busy trying to save the world even though no one asked this of you. Maybe it's because there are a lot of things going on. Maybe no one will care. Maybe you believe the fire inside you should asphyxiate. Maybe you hope to God the anger inside stays preoccupied with eating at you before it learns a way out. Say that you would rather be a master to your slave than the captain of your soul. Jupiter isn't aligned with Atlantis. It's been years since the doctor said we need your permission to terminate. And purgatory has been every minute after you said yes. Maybe, for whatever reason, you preferred the light in the valley. You've got a lot going on. Say you're afraid it's gone. You're afraid it's still there. You are scared of the big bad monster that will come and make you cleanse your soul of all you won't let go. Say that you have lost faith in yourself. Tell me what you have to. But don't tell me you've nothing to write. This Missing by Maddy Dessanti. In the silence, or rather the hum that's closest to silence, cars on the highway, the bugs of summer mixed with birdsong, the mailman dropping the mail in the mailbox, also lies our silence. In the song I wish to show you, but will never show you, also lies our song. And all the window benches I crawl into, the ice creams I lick, the smiles strangers exchange, you're in there too. Or rather, your absence is in there too. This emptiness, this missing, is a presence in of itself. It's a faceless lump of weight shadowing me. I have these moments, Buddhists would call satori, where nature moves me to a sudden enlightenment, a taste of transcending the spatial temporal. I find it in cloud formations, blue skies, dust particles settling in the dusk. I find it in imagining I'm standing on a mountaintop and the sky is so vast, so enveloping that nothing exists but this feeling that I am really tall, and then, God damn it, there you are again. And I'm like, get off my mountaintop. There goes Satori. I'm forgetting the features of your face. My dreams try to fill in the blanks and comes up with a monster. My friend told me that true love is drinking a beer and watching the sunset. I do this a lot. I am aiming to get back to Satori, or to get back to the top of that mountain. I am not afraid to love again. I am just afraid to put that in the hands of a reckless human. Losing my mind. Losing my fucking mind. Southerner Sweat by Spencer Mirabal. Ciao, partner. Montana royalty. That cattle call in your heart herds you home. Through the muck of indefinite pandemic, you freely, gruelingly gallop back to your family's ranch, 25 hours and 2 days. And now, much like early on in our love, everything in my environment magically smells like you. Your olive thighs must have seared themselves into my sweaters, my coffee mugs, my cutting board, my potato patties, my armpits. Like a lotion, your pheromones hibernate in my skin. The honey, the garlic, the rhubarb, the Japanese beer, the Irish butter, it all remains without you. It is paralyzing. It is witchcraft. Crisis scrunches time, compartmentalizes it. Everything small is so much. My evenings end early, my mornings open even earlier so, my alone life a trudge. But our shared love is vigorous. The attentiveness, the coziness, the championing, the lust, the farts, so palpable. We are 100% committed to the architecture of us, of our forecasted kingdom. Isolated, I aerate my mania. The back of my eyelids synthesize their muddy patterns with your aroma into an ethereal you. Your braless body in that peach dress. In the mystic soil that is the air above me, my hands massage and shape the soles of your feet like bricks of adobe. Every evening's early end, bringing us closer to making a moat of Southerner sweat around the bed, closer to christening our castle. Estranged by Joe Brundidge. Tomorrow is in love with me, has been for quite some time, but I'm in a relationship, estranged from today, still seeing yesterday on the side. Tomorrow knows I'm not happy, knows I may not be the victim, doesn't want what I won't let go of. Tomorrow sees how I neglect today, a day that wonders why I don't just leave, sees the way I look at yesterday, wonders why I go back there, wonders if I ever really left. Tomorrow knows a lover will not let go of the past, can never hold your hand, knows a problem you don't want solved is not the problem, will not have a lover addicted to conflict, so she leaves me to my maelstrom. Tells me I only have what I want, says she can't be a party to my purgatory, but promises, should I break away when I am done, having such a ball with my chains, she will be waiting. Moonshot by August Smith. We duel for the trophy at midnight, said the job application response, and tormented as I was by the invention of wages, I yanked my rapier from the shelf. I still had Luna reside from our trip to Belgrade. Or was it Toronto? And clinging to the curve of my skin like spiderwebs trapping mood rings, where I invited the woman with a Swedish smile from the steamy exchange in the phone booth, who produced from her velvet purse a frozen cloud chalice and pressed it to my palm, whispering, Ta vie est vapeur. Well, okay, I do not speak French. We ate blue jello, the rarest kind. There were footprints in the boathouse. I trained all through lunch, befriended a hip high horse and a terrace of ripened nightshade. My philosophy replaced my resume. I have leveled up my jab accuracy and dreamed of a hay bale made of coral and a platinum revolver trickling rose oil. My empty boat was circling. Hungry, I was sick with an expensive banking virus that made me spend all my money on its cure, and to top it all off, I was in love. As the dappled sun dipped below the cantaloupe on the table, the clock tower chimed 12:37. We duel for the trophy at midnight. I was late. I arrived at the agreed-upon meadow, aglow in the gilded glimmering. The church bell sang above the glassy field. I looked across and saw a woman, her gown galvanizing. I saw her velvet purse and pursed lips. It was the woman from before. I recognized her from LinkedIn. So I drew my sword. My eyes were embers. I drank deep from the beer can of my cowboy life, and I accepted an invitation to teach at a university in Madrid. My entire family and all of my friends cheered for me and yelled in unison, "We love you, August!" And I sailed away on my sailboat. It grew very old and extremely ugly, as we all do, from sitting in too many broken chairs. Blood Orange by Sam Trevino. April busted in like a tornado, a real motherfucker, all gusty rain and destructive inertia. Texas, California, Santa Fe all sent telegraphs daily saying, "Come and see." And I saw that we'd rather be anywhere than New England. Should I lean into the cliche, get an anchor tattooed on my chest and become a fisherman? I never wore boots or a 10-gallon hat back down south, but with enough tequila, I dance with a beauty you'd never guess I'd possess. Perhaps with enough rum I could drop my R's and assume a fearless swagger. I could squeeze the lazy drawl from my tongue like blood from a piece of citrus meat, juice away any trace of my roots until I'm a blank canvas, waiting to be filled with a new kind of light yet to be discovered. Some folk got a blood orange between their ribs, where most would keep a heart, with a flag flown from their rigging just shy of the top, where sails kissed the sky's blue, hand sewn with the historic care of Betsy Ross, a desperate plea. Please, be kind. It reads the following by Maddy Dessanti. I have sat cross-legged in a tent for a number of days, counting my heartbeats and noticing the silences in between. The silences tell me the answers, and then the heart beats and silences the silence. And all I can do is yearn for the silence again. But without the heartbeats, I can't hear the silences. Thus, it is a constant cycle of bliss and anticipation for the bliss. I am not sure which part is better. Stride by Joe Brundidge. To the older cat that had a real cool walk going until he tripped, stumbled on that curb somebody obviously put there to mess up the groove he had going on. Keep your stride, sir. I ain't seen shit. So goofy. I think Joe's at his best when he's goofy. Like, he's poignant, but that's when his real personality comes out. I wonder if my pants look whack. Alright, this is the GoldenEye poem. GoldenEye poem by August Smith. Quote, Martin Hollis, the developer of the 1997 James Bond-themed game GoldenEye 007, told me that he once received a fax from Shigeru Miyamoto, the inventor of Super Mario, calling the game tragic and horrible. Miyamoto proposed that at the end of GoldenEye, players should be forced to shake hands with their victims as they lay recovering in hospital beds. The idea was never implemented. Simon Parkin. What does a handshake look like in the first person? Identical to a crisp slap? What does a robin look like when it's friendly? Not brandishing a claw, but brandish rendered and soft, singing her compressed hymn. The facility beneath the pipe spewing steam by the control chamber whistles every night. The cleanest cemetery. Excuse me. I'm sorry for hurting you. Everyone I've encountered. Basically, my head is a cube. Now let's be men about it and shake my hand. Show me that wild onion heart by Sam Trevino. Let me wash it clean under the tap. We will sing while dirt circles the drain like vultures over a patch of interstate, eating what they love most. I would slice and dice the bulb of your core, saute it in oil, devour it with hunger matched only by the cyclone bursting through barns, ravenous, crossing county lines with no regard for arbitrary borders. Throw yourself head first into the stink and mess of the romantic. Eat the one you're with. Miss Jordan. I think I just fucking losing my mind. I'm losing my fucking mind. I'm going to read this next one. He has such an interesting difference. Sometimes his poems are very just matter of fact and conversational, and sometimes, like the one I just read a moment ago, totally language oriented and imagery oriented, and you get kind of lost in the language. And to tell you the truth, I feel both are incredibly comforting. The way he balances, I'm really jealous of the way he balances plain spokenness and poetic imagery, poetic language, the way music, the words crash into each other. So August Smith, fuck that guy. I love you. I love that dude. He's a big inspiration to me. I feel like anytime I want to feel both awesome about the world of poetry and then equally terrible about my stance in it, I just have to read his things because he's so talented. It's so goofy. I wish I was more goofy like him. Gobbledygook by August Smith. After much deliberation, discussion, triangulation, conversation, circumlocution, we defined our mutual sense of humor, repeating what the other says, but slightly altered, or rebounding with synonyms, or endlessly riffing on a phrase, or saying it again but differently, which always devolves into chains of spastic nonsense, like how a sound echoes until its meaning is scooped out by the raw materials of noise. We sat, rested, waited by the pond, and tried to summon a bottle of wine with our minds. If one attempts the impossible and fails, it doesn't count as failure, as disappointment, as fiasco, as anti-success, as liquid clocks, as waves flowing inward on the surface. I should have said what I was thinking at that moment. To express, articulate, utter, verbalize, and put into words, impossible as words are already in themselves. To attempt to speak anyway, without fear of failure. To let the static of nonsense say everything I wanted and nothing at once. Okay, so I think we're at a really good stopping point at this moment to take a break from poetry. I want you guys to use this time for whatever you need to use this time for, whether that's to rest your mind, your body, grab a drink, use the restroom, write if you want to, but really use this time for you. Here's some music. We'll be back in a moment. Thanks for listening to the Poetry Pals Radio Hour. Hello. Welcome back. You are listening to the Poetry Pals Radio Hour, not live, very much pre-recorded, from a small studio apartment in the backyard of an undisclosed landlord's house in Austin, Texas. Again, I am Spencer Mirabal. Chuck Mangione, the trumpet player, once said this statement on the 1979 live album of his performance at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was the goofiest shit I had ever heard, and I want to use it now in the context of easing you back into listening. We are going to continue the second half of this basketball game with with something new. I'm going to read you a short story from a friend of mine's book. It is much longer than everything else you've heard thus far, but I love this piece and I think about it often, and more than anything, it deserves to be amongst the poems being read this hour. Also, fair warning, there is some astronomical, incredibly terrible voice acting for one of the characters in this story. I now have the utmost respect for audiobook narrators and animation voice actors and can now safely coin my status as a prematurely retired voice actor, at least for now. Cheers and hello. Welcome back, sweet friends. At the End of Everything by M. Berger. I spread the last of the tall green corn stalks with my hands and found exactly what I had been told I would find beyond the cornfield, but not. I was told that I would find a quaint one-story white farmhouse with an old woman in a rocking chair sitting out front. I was also told that she would tell me what I needed to finish my story. You know, kill the bad guy, collect all the stones, whatever. This was it. The most important part of the plot, where the main character, me, gets the information that they needed to defeat the biggest and baddest evil in the universe and save the planet. What no one had told me was that the cornfield was a maze that took days to solve. Not like a maze with a set path or anything, but just a large field with absolutely no markers in it. Not a fence, nor a scarecrow, nothing. Just fucking corn stalks as far as the eye could see. Now, after what felt like days of wandering through corn, and more fucking corn, I had found, finally, what I was looking for. I fell to the ground immediately from a mix of exhaustion and relief. Through dehydrated eyes, I scanned the house quickly. I had pictured a quaint white farmhouse, painted with tulips on the side, or a pristine picket fence framing an immaculate yard. Instead, after days of wandering in circles, I had found a run-down, one-story farmhouse. At one point, this house might have been white, but now the paint was so cracked and chipped that the color was more a dingy brown than anything else. There was an old woman sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch, but she wasn't the sweet old grandma type that I was hoping for. In fact, she was the opposite. To be completely honest, she looked more opossum than woman, with her scraggly gray hair growing in patches, and her worn, sun-damaged skin showing through her tattered blue overalls. A half-lit, long cigarette was pinched between the first two fingers of her right hand, as she slowly creaked back and forth on her dilapidated rocking chair. The large, two-barrel shotgun cradled in her lap was the cleanest thing on that porch. Water, I croaked through chapped lips.
Fine, just hold your goddamn horses,
she groaned, reaching for a muddy glass of water next to her. She put aside the shotgun and painfully lifted herself from her destroyed rocking chair, which responded with a large crack to the change in weight. The old woman waddled towards me and put the glass to my lips. I chugged gratefully. I sat up without taking my lips off of the glass and took the warm liquid from her with both hands greedily.
Don't drink too fast or you'll die or something.
She trailed off, leaving me to drink while she returned to her chair. The glass seemed to magically replenish itself until my belly was full and my lips were plump and moisturized again. It was then that I was able to more closely examine my surroundings. I knew that something seemed off when I first collapsed into the clearing. While the paint of the house looked as if it had been on its last leg, upon closer inspection, the wood underneath the paint was brand new. As if the house had been built yesterday, and while the yard was ragged and overgrown, the grass stopped growing in an exact circle around the house where the corn started. Finally, I noted that the old woman had at least 10 packs of empty cigarette cartons littered around her feet, and a few new ones stacked behind her chair, but there was no car nor driveway. How did she ever leave this place to go to the store? A quick image of a delivery driver wandering around in the cornfield, yelling and covered in mud, flashed through my head. I turned to look at the old woman back in her rocking chair and smoking. She replaced the gun in her lap. I glanced at it uneasily.
Some people come out a little crazy,
She explained, lifting it in the air. I nodded. I could see how that could happen. How did you know to have the water? I asked.
Who says the water was for you?
She interrupted.
Come on, let's get this over with. You're not the only one I got scheduled for today.
I looked around. The corn rustled silently as the wind passed through the stalks. Not another soul in sight. I approached the house and took all 3 creaky steps up to the porch, where a stool I hadn't noticed earlier sat waiting for me. I tried to peer through the torn screen door into the house, but oddly, all I saw was blackness.
Come on, just sit and let's get through this. My next customer has been wandering for a week now.
She hissed. Customer? I stammered.
Now don't you worry about that. Just go ahead and spit it out, child. Cigarette?
She asked as she held up her half-empty pack. No, thanks, I murmured, studying the deep indentations on her face.
Well, go on now. If you don't get started soon,
She threatened. Mauricia! I exclaimed, cutting her off. I came because I need to defeat Mauricia.
Uh-huh.
She pushed.
Let me guess. Bad guy who destroyed your home.
Yes, I yelped. I wasn't surprised that she had heard of her. Everyone in my hometown had heard of that evil woman.
Okay, well, I found that this works better when I come out and just be straight with you.
She mused. I nodded, now on the edge of my seat, waiting to hear it. The information I would need in order to defeat Mauricia, the evilest being in the universe, and deliver peace back to my world. The old woman seemed to pause for a short moment, out of respect before speaking.
There's nothing you can do,
She stated. I hesitated, taking in her statement. What? I breathed.
There's nothing you can do.
She repeated, putting out her cigarette in an overflowing ashtray placed on a small yellow TV table next to her. She immediately reached into the pack tucked inside her overalls and pulled out a new one.
And there was never anything you could do,
She added. My brain did everything but explode. Nothing. There was nothing I could do. What exactly did she mean? I was panicking. I didn't have much time. I was already behind schedule as it was to get back to my party, waiting for me on the edge of the cornfield. I'm sure being a million-year-old wise woman has given you some sick sense of humor, I started, my head beginning to spin. But you're joking, right? I mean, after everything that I've been through, the snakes, the maze, the fucking volcano... The old woman cut me off by reaching out and putting her ashy hand gently on my arm. She pulled the cigarette out of her mouth, leaned as far forward as she could, looked me dead in the eye, and whispered,
Sweetheart, it's over. It's time for your part to end.
I searched in her eyes for as long as I could before tears began to spring up in the corners of mine. The deep green pools of her eyes told me that she wasn't lying. No, I pushed through my teeth. All of those dead people
Will stay dead whether you do anything or not.
she finished, pointedly, leaning back in her rocking chair. I leaned back as far as I comfortably could on my stool, my gaze dropping to my hands, blistered and dirty. And my family? I squeaked out.
Dead.
She responded curtly.
Dead for weeks. You didn't save them, and you never will. There's no way to defeat her, and there never will be. It's over. Just be lucky that you're still alive. Live life to its fullest. Or whatever. Anyway, your time is up.
But I can't. Is there a second opinion I can get? I can't. I managed to stammer out, getting up to my feet. A memory flashed into my head of the time my sister's doctor found a mole on her back. She had immediately claimed cancer. The family had already mourned her death. It put a down payment on a casket before my more level-headed aunt got a second opinion from another physician who promptly removed the mole and did a biopsy, finding no cancer. My mother begrudgingly returned the funeral gifts, but we were all right. Everything turned out okay. Happy ending.
No,
She said.
you don't understand. Your time is up. Your appointment time is up. You have to leave. Get to getting.
The old woman stood and pointed to a rustle in the cornfield in the distance. "Hello? Anyone there?" yelled a male voice from the general direction of the rustling. The old woman grabbed the now full glass of water from my hand and began to herd me back towards the cornfield in the opposite direction of the voice.
Come on, don't make this any odder than it has to be. Just get going.
She pushed, waving her hands, one still with a lit cigarette, shooing me away. I started to move towards the edge of the cornfield, downtrodden and in shock. My feet shuffled and stumbled, as confused as my brain. It was over. Finally over. But then I thought of my sister, young and bushy-tailed, ready for college, and my mother, sweet and smooth like a lotion, so different than I. They couldn't be dead. In fact, I didn't believe they were dead. "No!" I yelled, planting my feet. "No, they are not dead, and there is a way to win this. I know it. I just know it." The old woman stopped her waddle. She looked me up and down, as if inspecting me for the first time. Her body mirrored my own stubbornness.
Oh, sweetie, don't do this.
She murmured.
You don't want this. Just go.
"No!" I yelled, ripping the cigarette from her hand and throwing it on the ground. "I want answers. I want my mom. I want to see my home again."
Fine.
The old lady whispered. "What?" I asked.
Fine. I'll give you the answers, but I don't think you'll be happy with them.
She warned. "I don't care," I forced out. "I don't care. I want to know. Tell me."
Fine.
She stated as she slowly walked to the edge of the field. She looked around a bit, as if searching for one specific stalk.
Here.
She said, finally, pointing to the corn. "What?" I asked, bewildered.
Here.
She said.
Walk through here.
Confused, I walked towards where she was pointing. I lined my head up with her finger. The male voice was getting closer. I could hear his rustling, as if it was just behind me. Just corn. Everything looked like corn. I turned to protest, but she was gone. As was the house, the rocking chair, everything. The voice and rustling had gone too, replaced with the eerie silence of the cornfield. In front of me was a pristine, white, one-story farmhouse with pink and orange tulips painted on the side. My legs bumped up against something as I leaned forward to inspect the house further. I looked down to find a pure white picket fence, about knee-high, lining the circle around the house. I began to panic, looking for the old woman. What is this? Where is everyone? When I heard a voice in the distance, distinctly feminine this time.
Hello? Anyone there?
It yelled. "Yes, I'm here!" I yelled back. The corn began to bob and weave with the wind as I moved toward the dark oak rocking chair, sitting out on the front porch. "74 Till Infinity" by Joe Brundidge. I am a half-empty notebook, Metronome churches, dead tree containers. I am too many pockets. Empty house haunted by a black boy's ghost. I am a room full of prayers, hugging life. Benevolence bursting from blood vessels. That which does not kill me is very persistent at trying. That which does not kill me is poetry, is cunning. I am afraid one day God will finish writing me. I am a pawnshop heart one step from selling to a stranger's eyes any day now. Any day now. I am hoping to die asleep and finished in the comfort of my home, rather than bustling, rather than shuttered. Idiosyncrasies. I am a home wherever I stand, a castle to some, fortified protons and neutrons and idiosyncrasies. Fuck, god damn it. Are you ready? Idiosyncrasies. I am a home wherever I stand, a castle to some, fortified protons and neutrons and idiosyncrasies here and gone at the same time. I am a half-empty notebook with pages left. Meditations on God by Maddy Dessanti. 1. Finding God. They say to place yourself in a quiet space. Unplug the telephone line and dim the lights. But New York City is infecting. The green lights atop the empire will reach the darkest prairie. And your carpet should be oriental, and your incense should be burning. But when did God require olfactory and touch sensations in order to manifest? And you shall be patient, and you shall count your breaths, eat minimally, sleep just enough, remove thoughts, remove desires, but my desire is to be with you. I am doing this wrong. I sit cross-legged to ironically invoke the omnipresent. I am calling on God to speed the heart's aperture. This is anti-prayer. I want God to meet me every time the wind brushes against. 2. The language of God. God speaks French, and as flowery as that tongue may flow, I will resign my intellectual persona and wish aloud. I wish the Tower of Babel were demolished. I wish God spoke in a less beautiful language. 3. On the existence of God. Descartes said that of all of his ideas, God was the most true, the most clear, the most distinct. He felt it in his gut. I feel this in mine. God sardonically smiling down on me when karma pays me a visit, and conversely, when I bathe in the light of joy, God takes on the role of Santa, fat and jolly, white beard bouncing. You've been a good little girl this year. Okay. Spooky Places by Sam Trevino. Let me take off my werewolf mask for you and feel the full moon on my bare skin. I'd like nothing more than to co-star in 100 monster movies with you. We can trade off screaming bloody murder and being the scary one who is calling from inside the house. Some folk use the silver bullet as a kind of foreplay, and why can't all loves be that courageous and visceral? Could you hear the symphony of romantic chainsaws, the orchestra of the living dead tuning their violins, the staccato of the butcher knife massacre of bedsheets and shower curtains? Far from the town, the man in the hockey mask anxiously wrings his bloody sausage fingers and whispers to those starry-eyed campers after midnight, be tender to one another. It's damn lonely out in these woods. Warmth, whirlpool. Warmth, whirlpool. Warmth, whirlpool. Warmth, fucking whirlpool. God, Jesus. The nice thing about this, to find a silver lining in me reading this poem now 6 fucking times just for this project, is enunciation. This is why reading poetry out loud is so important. You know, you can write it on the page. It looks great, although the words look nice next to each other. And then you read it out loud, and it's gobbledygook, as August would say. So I'm going to try this take, really enunciating the consonants in this poem, which warmth, whirlpool, for example, really tripping me up, really pissing me off. I hope I put this in. Because I'm annoyed right now. It's really not that hard. I wrote this shit. Why is it so hard? Okay. Amtrak Cascades Alone for presumably the last time by Spencer Mirabal. She gets on in Edmonds. He gets on in Seattle. The train headed southbound. In a reflection only viewable from the window seat, a woman, cheeks of some kind of purple silver seashell, listens intently to a man sitting across from her. Her earnest eyes hold on to his words like a glass of saved for years just for tonight Rioja, slow dance swirling with them. When he laughs, she breathes it in. A bowl of chicken noodle soup with carrots and celery becomes a warmth whirlpool, drains away all of her embarrassing stories, her mild vices, her slugs that made a home of her dampest insecurities. It's been a while, a baker's dozen of lifetimes. They talk and they talk, and they laugh and they talk, and all the while, the Olympia sun took an Ambien with a double well whiskey and passed out behind the mountains, and the mountains took the opportunity to throw a party, to turn into Venus, all yellow and brown, like a premature Thanksgiving disco ball. All of the children on the train became warthogs, trampling and barreling into each other, while wearing name tags with sophisticated scribble they've been learning like some kind of ruckus-themed block party. And harbor seals, who haven't been home in a while, got drinks with barnacles still chilling on the dam of the rocks along the tracks. Neither of them having jobs with health insurance yet. Neither of them having anything in common anymore. But the woman's eyes have no questions for these things. Only for the man, so different than before her, across together in their own cozy moment underneath space-time's comforter. How long had his hair been pepper-speckled and summer-seasoned? How many hotel rooms and how many cities has the left side of his bed been empty? Have his eyes always been green? Has this always been the place they were meant to be when they find out? The Heart of Chernobyl by Maddy Dessanti, inspired by Jeremiad for Belarus by Hope Burwell. Eyes wide, with the cries of a mother's touch to the bottle, his left eye looks west for miles into the past. It has a glare of his mother's late hand, veins pumping with the blood of, I'm not ready for this, I can't handle this, and a BAC of .21. FAS is the reason. FAS and nothing more. What can't be seen can't be named. What can't be diagnosed can't be blamed. His right eye looks east just slightly, can't think of the future when he can hardly get past elementary arithmetic. But his problems don't cease there. He is missing his left arm, and he roars with asthma. Each time a rush of wind leaves his lips, he fears a break in his heartstrings, the pulsing organ breaking the rules of biology and beating a bloody path up the respiratory pathway. The heart to take a drudging trip up the trachea, through the larynx, burst open the flap door epiglottis, and spat out the throat into the phlegm and blood-speckled cupped hands before him. This is the boy's cough each day. Each day he fears he will cough up his own heart and see the failure that dwells in it, the yellow and damp tumor of cancer pulsing on it, and on that tumor of cancer a perfect square will be brandished upon it, as if taken from a periodic table. It will read, atomic weight 137, atomic number 55, and a bold C's in the center. He fears and yet hopes to see this element brandished on his heart as proof, as a memento of the Chernobyl accident in 1986, and with the seconds he has left to live, he will take his testament heart not to the doctors and health researchers clad in lab white coats, but to the government. And with his last breath, he will whisper, "You were wrong." Reasons to Survive the Winter by Sam Trevino. Too much isolation is a bear. It's the dark bear of madness that I'm talking about, the lumbering lethargic brute that you don't want to poke, even on the coldest nights of too many mixed drinks and not enough, "Are you all right?" Too many holidays with an empty seat at the table and one more, "How are y'all holding up?" Sometimes the bear stirs and scares our friends into not knowing what to say. Another tight-lipped voicemail brings news of suicide on the home front. The whiskey doesn't help at this point. The bear just becomes an angry drunk. Folk refuse to leave the house. Not that they could. The cars are fluffy white tombstones buried along the sidewalk. The knife of wind chill crawls another centimeter into our collective gut. The bear doesn't care. He's dreaming of car crashes and laughing. Then, one day, the clouds break, and he buries his face deeper into his pillow against the sun. "We'll drink too much this summer," partly celebratory, partly to regain our sea legs, and after 6 months trapped in the harbor of dirty dishes and passive aggression, soon it'll be us growling at the bear, who will wander off like a reformed drunk, ashamed of what he'd said the night before. Soon, the dead will haunt us less and be remembered more. The smell of rain on a hot sidewalk that strikes you during a January blizzard. A breathing moment, gone, but looked forward to. Calendar Shoot by August Smith. When Katie said, "We are living in a calendar," I don't think she was talking about time itself, though we do live in that too and tunnel through the grid of days, stalked by a hand drawing red X's. Rather, she was talking about the high-def panoramas hovering above the dates and scribbled in birthdays. Green and intricate, the strident trees leaned toward the pond where she and I swam as lovelorn ships. I looked out across its gently warping personality to spot a fisherman in a boat, wearing one of those fisherman caps. You know the kind, beige with a circular brim and even melt all around, looking like he was dropped there to symbolize some idyllic and relaxing sentiment. Gone fishing. As if I turned to the shore and see a troop of sentimental photographers shouting at me to move, please, swim over there. June needs this fisherman. Though two heads close in the water is also what June needs. After all, we were living in a specific Monday at the time, at least for a little while longer. Valentine's Day, 2034, by Spencer Mirabal. There is music in the living room, which is nothing new. It's never not in our house. Tonight, you put on an exhausted 7-inch of Donny Hathaway, a song for you. It purrs and pops, warms the room, a bag of kettle corn and a sauna. Maybe they're too old for this now, but the kids are making handmade Valentine cards out of old parchment paper we've collected over the years. A pink plastic bin of bark, leaves, seashells, leather, stones, clay, hand-me-down knickknacks that hides under the old bunk bed for evenings like this one. All of it sprawled out on an Egyptian rug my mom bought in 1995, the best new parent money could buy. Her gift to us the night before the wedding in small company. Even now, when they could visit a water park on Neptune, digitally sculpted and programmed in their brain chips at any time, you insist our children be crafty, kept them engrossed in making everything by hand, taught them the texture of glitter, how holding it all together in the cup mug of your hands could teach you to love a beautiful mess of another person. While I was off being a fireworks show, you were gifting them mugs filled with hot lemon balm tea and lavender for when they came back. Never ever, forever never do I thank you enough for these things. Rest your head on my shoulder, let's slow dance. You love like a lioness, glitter in your mane, gloop caked on your paw, claws on my back when we sway but never sharp. I'm crooning an off-tune falsetto into your eardrum just soft enough to be a balmy breeze in the Sahara. I love you in a place where there is no space or time, on our Egyptian rug, with frosted flakes, milk, and Argentinian wine stains all over our space from different times. You've always been so beautiful at 8:31 p.m.